Hi, welcome to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters, and today is October 24th.
Yeah, this is the first time we've just kind of talked. We haven't.
That's right. We've been having candidates probably like 5 or so shows in a row, maybe 5 or 6. Yeah. So it's a good time to do a little bit of catching up here.
Right.
So it's October 24th. It's exactly 2 weeks to Election Day.
Right.
We'll be doing the election night broadcast.
Well, I'm not doing it with you. Right. You're doing it,
Susanna Sagat and I will be doing that again, and we'll have. I think CCTV's going to do things a little bit differently this year.
Really?
Well, yeah, we had a little bit of a meeting. They're going to have more sort of pre-recorded segments.
Okay. So it's not totally on you the whole time
exactly.
downtime and all that. Oh, that's great.
Which honestly is a lot easier on us.
Sure, because the camera was always on. You were trying to find guests to come in and talk.
Yeah. So we'd always have somebody sort of reaching out in the crowd and pulling people. We never knew who was coming in. So I think it'll be a little more orchestrated this way, which would be good. And it's actually, honestly, for those of us who are, kind of have to be on camera there, it's a little easier.
Thank you, Susanna, for doing this. I'm not eager to do this.
Anyway, it'll be fun. And then actually I hear tell there are some candidates, especially the ones who are nervous because they're not sure whether they might win or might lose. They're kind of on the cusp.
Oh, they don't want to be on?
If you don't have a chance, you could just go there, and it's not a big deal. And if you're a shoo-in, you could go there, and it's not a big deal. But people who are like, they don't necessarily want to be in a public place in this moment of exaltation or
But not everything is that. Are things always decided by the end of the night?
No, but the thing is that
pretty much decided.
I mean, the way might as well mention it a little bit here. The way it works, we sort of have a nomenclature about this now. The Tuesday night results are all based on almost all of the ballots, but not including any write-ins.
Okay.
Or any other ballots that couldn't have been counted for whatever reason.
So the absentees are counted, right?
The absentees ballots are actually scanned at the precinct during the day.
Okay, so
when is a free moment, and there are a lot of free moments in the middle of the day. They just
so they had to be in their hands by that day.
Yeah, they said
They're not given any leeway there. Overseas ballots, I think, are
the only ones are overseas absentee ballots,
military,
which
maybe.
they have they have to still be postmarked by a certain day, but they can arrive later.
Right. Okay.
And federal law actually requires that they be given a full 10 days. So consequently, what we have is election day is November 7th. So on Tuesday the 7th in the evening, there will be what we will call preliminary results.
Right.
And they run the whole tabulation software, all the transferable ballots, everything. Right. It's not just the number ones. It's sort of it's almost like a dry run at the real deal.
Okay.
But generally speaking, since it's 90 some odd % of the ballots or more. Then it's going to probably give you the results. I suspect there may be some very close races this year.
Well, as Nadine pointed out in some letter I got with him supporting Quinton, 6 votes.
It wasn't. I don't think that's true. No, I think he's been misstating that for a while.
Really? Oh.
No, I mean there was some really close elections.
Was that the one where Minka was ahead and then she wasn't ahead? Was that the same race?
I don't remember for sure, but I know where to find out the information.
All right. Well,
but
the point is,
it can be very
close. It could be 10 votes. It could be 11 votes. So,
no, it's absolutely true. Yeah. And remember, there can be close counts at individual rounds.
Right.
Maybe even if it goes 20 rounds. I don't remember how many rounds it'll go with this many candidates. But it may well be that at round 16, 2 candidates were within 5 votes. One preceded and was eventually elected, and the other one was defeated. And had it gone the other way, then the other one might have helped feed the other candidate to help him go. So it's not always a matter of what's the finish at the finish line. There are these intermediate points where you can
basically quota is determined by how many votes there are altogether.
That's right. The total
divided by
it's basically you take the total number of ballots cast, you subtract out any invalid ballots, which are almost all blanks, right? We have no valid votes, and you take 1/10 of them and round up, and that's how many ballots it takes to establish quota. Many people, and if you reach quota, you are elected, but that's not what quota is.
Right.
Quota is the maximum number of ballots any candidate is permitted to keep.
So then that's why you have surpluses.
Right, and if you didn't have a quota, I mean, you could have, there is a system we call bottoms up where you just do a series of runoffs, period, until there are 9 people left standing for
Right.
council and 6 for the school committee.
Right.
The problem with that is it can give you extremely disproportional results. There was a woman doing these podcasts called Backyard Cambridge, and I quoted on the most recent one, or one.
There's a podcast called Backyard Cambridge?
Yeah.
What?
I'll show you. Maybe I gotta put some links in for it, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Well, it's sort of, they only just started putting the programs out, but in one of them I was trying to explain what the real purpose of the quota was, and I made a hypothetical city. Say you had a city that was like, 60% diehard Christian, and one of the candidates running was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ gets all the number 1 votes.
Yeah.
And he keeps them all.
Yeah.
And therefore they're not available for all these others, so you end up with 1 out of 9 councilors representing the 60%.
That's why you
country.
don't let everyone
Yeah,
keep their votes.
so that's really the purpose of quotas, to say, I'm sorry, you're extremely popular, but
we're just going to
if
take
you keep
these,
your votes,
yeah.
it's actually going to hurt the very constituency that put you in.
Well, that
so
makes sense.
so we have to transfer them down, and so that they can be shared amongst other similar candidates.
And that happens to the candidates that don't make quota too, right? I mean, their votes are they distributed up?
Yeah, so what happens after anybody who's super popular and exceeds the quota, then you bring them down, and then that's where most of the count begins, because I don't know how many candidates are going to go over quota this time, if maybe 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, won't
so
be
that's
many.
that happens in the first 2 or 3 rounds, right?
Okay.
But then you have 26 candidates, you're only going to have 9 left standing, so you go, all the under 50s are counted out at once, and then you knock off who's lowest, knock them off, who's then lowest, knock them off, and keep transferring the ballots up to continuing candidates until eventually you're down to 12, 11, 10, and because when you get to 10, whoever's last loses, and then the remaining ones win. Wow. So, it's a pretty good system, I mean, you could argue, do we really need it in Cambridge? Well, we'll actually be talking about that a little bit. We have be doing on the night before election. So it's that Monday night, November 6th.
It's not in your calendar.
Not yet, because some details are still being worked out. It's Alyssa Pacey, who's the archivist with the main library.
Oh yeah.
Is actually helped put this together.
Okay.
So
do you have any sense of time?
Glenn Kuchar has agreed to join in.
Wait, so when is this?
I think we may have Susanna Sagat and Howie Fain.
Oh my gosh! So this will be at the library.
At the library on the Monday the 6th. I don't know the time yet.
But not before 6, probably.
I hope not.
It has to end by 8:30 or 8:45. So,
whatever. Yeah. So and I don't know how long it'll even run, but the thing is, it'll be interesting. Somewhat historical, somewhat just factual, and Howie Fain is also involved currently in this campaign for
the vote,
adopting ranked choice voting elsewhere in Massachusetts right now. So it'll be kind of current.
That's exciting. I hope they advertise it.
Yeah, I think they were just making it.
So far, I have not seen anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're just making it
social media. That's really.
Good anyway. Right. So anyway, we'll talk more. We'll probably have plenty of time to talk about elections between now and election day, but
only one more.
Only one more week.
Yeah, so you can't say that.
We still don't know whether we'll do one on that night before before election night. Well, we could.
No, I'm off that night. No, Susanna, you can do it if you want. But
no. We're doing we start the election night programming at 8:30, but.
I know, but you're crazy.
All right, okay.
No reason to.
All right, okay. Anyway,
especially if you're doing the November 6th, which is probably going to get recorded, and maybe people would watch that.
I'm going to be on a roll.
In fact, you know what? If that's recorded, they should show it instead of our show.
If they can actually do some roll-ins, that would be kind of nice.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
If you can do that. So big things happening in the city. So
yes, that was
a big It wasn't a contentious meeting last night.
No, but almost 3 hours of public comment, which a lot was positive stuff for the Volpe Center.
Yeah. So here's the deal: is that the MIT Volpe Petition basically has been in the queue for a while. It was passed with second reading a few weeks ago.
Ordinance.
No, at City Council.
Oh, at City Council, okay.
For additional ordinance committee reports and planning board reports that would come in.
Many, yeah.
So everything was sort of in place, but the deadline was October 31st, which is a Tuesday.
A week from today.
So there would have been, many people believed that the vote on the Volpe ordination would have happened on the 30th, the night before the deadline, right? But it's
no reason to.
There isn't any reason to, and I've just sort of grown so accustomed to the city councilors over the years just kicking the can down the road that I just assumed they would. But then when I showed up at the meeting last night, you saw all the top brass from MIT were there.
Well, they had to be there anyway, though, because there were questions, no?
If it was not going to come to a vote, then they probably would have not been there.
Oh,
so when I went there and they were there, I said, I think they're going to be bringing this to a vote tonight.
I see.
Which is sort of a good thing, because if there had been some stumbling block, it's better to do that a week earlier, so that you.
Well, there was kind of a stumbling
if you have to come back,
yeah.
well, actually, not really.
No. Well, what would be a stumbling block?
I'll give you my interpretation about what I saw last night.
Right.
But what basically, there could have been a stumbling block, meaning something that was an absolutely seemingly irresolvable conflict that needed to be worked out.
Okay, that's
now,
unlikely since they had so many meetings.
Well, this process, honestly, this was
one of the
probably the
thorough,
most thorough and transparent processes in zoning I've seen in years.
Yeah.
If maybe ever, right?
Community meetings.
Many meetings, and in the end, rather than sort of coming with amendments to the floor and having it all, believe me, I've seen it when they were passing zoning on the night before expiration, where people are actually scurrying into side rooms, and people are saying, no, we can't have more than 4 councils in the room at once because it'll be a violation of the open meeting. So you have to leave now, but send so-and-so in.
That's not good.
No, it's not good.
This was done much better than that.
Right, this was done so much better. So in fact, pretty much everything, including the so-called Memorandum of Understanding that MIT signed, basically delineating their various commitments, that was all known a week before before last night. So it would have been 2 weeks known if it hadn't gone an extra week. So it was all known. Right. And honestly, there just wasn't really anything left to settle, or it wasn't. There was some councilors were saying, well, maybe we need another week to maybe hammer something out. And then they took a recess, or sort of a recess, and they came back and said, all of the really big ticket items, the hard ones, all had to be discussed with the main administrative and corporate people at MIT, and they're not here tonight. Some of them were, but they have to go back. So that's not something that they could sort of just change on the fly, and they didn't want to. So they said, we think we've kind of everything we've done is we've really settled this out. And Iram Farouk from the Community Development Department said, we think that language is pretty tight. Right. It's pretty much everything everybody wanted, or at least enough that we were going to achieve some consensus.
Right.
So honestly, there was no rational basis for wanting to kick this another week down the road. Okay. So they voted. And it was interesting. The dynamics of the vote was interesting to me, because I kind of, I'm actually there. I like watching what they're thinking and how they're saying things. And
well, I was watching on TV, so.
Yeah, so what you could see really in there was a certain amount of posturing, not a lot, but where Councillor Carlone, who sort of co-authored, really, he was one of the primary authors of.
Well, he was the coach of the ordinance committee with Leland.
But really wove in a lot of the language, and there's he should have had some pride of authorship about this, at least as more than any other councillor, I think. Yeah. But in the end, there's also let's face it, there's an election happening in 2 weeks. So there were political considerations, and I've seen over the years many a vote where it was a 7-2 vote or an 8-1 vote, not because that was sincere, but because it was politically expedient. Now, I'm not saying outright that's what
it could have been passed with 6, though, right?
It needed 6 votes. Right. So honestly, it didn't need it to be passed unanimously. Right. It's a good gesture if it is. And honestly, considering the level of consensus that was reached about this, it probably should have been a 9-0 vote.
It's too bad. That's what I think.
It was too bad. Yeah, but on the other hand, if I'm Dennis Carlone, I'm looking at it and saying, like, okay, you've got Quentin Zondervan basically saying, I'm with the people down in East Cambridge who want to block it, and if you does he
really say that?
Oh, yeah. I think it was Green Cambridge and Fresh Pond Residence Alliance and the Cambridge Residence Alliance.
They don't want to block it.
No, they wrote a letter. They basically wanted to stop it and restart it and do it all going into next year.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
So they were absolutely opposed.
But he didn't vote nay. He voted present, which is really different than.
To vote no after you authored it,
he couldn't have done that.
That would have been absurd.
Right. And his main thing was the tax situation in 50 years and the open space thing. But
maybe I'm talking out of turn here, but to me that was made up.
Well,
mean, it's a consideration, but I think
yeah.
it was a convenient consideration because
And
you needed
it
a
wasn't set in
basis.
stone. That could have been down the years ago. I don't know. I just
You know, I
felt
think
it was
the city
unfortunate.
assessor really pointed out that
Yeah.
it would be kind of ridiculous
Yeah.
for MIT to take those properties off the
Right.
rolls because it's part of the endowment
Because
and the whole
It's
purpose of
costing them
doing
$750
this.
million.
Yeah, this
to build
was not
thing.
being
Yeah.
done for university expansion. This
Right.
was really being done for
And they need to make money from
money
it, and they're going to
generation
make money from commercial.
yeah, I mean, there's $1 billion
use.
price
Right.
tag associated with restoring the core
But
campus.
they
of
could
MIT.
house businesses in there that cater to MIT spin-offs, and you know
Well,
what? I don't care about
To some
that.
degree, that's
That'd be
really,
fine.
but
I
isn't
like
that in a sense that's what Kendall Square is in some ways?
In a way, yeah, and it would be jobs, and it would be
Yeah.
innovative
I mean,
stuff, and it
unlike
isn't
Harvard,
just students.
MIT is right from its very founding back in
They're
the
an
1860s.
industrial.
It was
kind
sort of
yeah.
an academic industrial partnership.
Right.
That's sort of what they do, and in many
Right.
respects, Kendall Square is kind of hand in glove with MIT.
I'd rather see
without
that
doing
than
it.
just pharmaceutical companies, although they're there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of connection because of
Yeah,
biotech and such
right,
too.
yeah.
So anyway, in the end, it was an 8
Yeah.
to 0 to 0 to 1 vote
Right.
technically.
Right.
8 yes, 0 no, nobody absent, and
Right.
1 voted present. And the
Right.
same vote on the memorandum of understanding too, which
Right.
is itself kind of strange. Because that really should have been unanimous. Because I
Yeah.
think it was just basically these wonderful commitments from
Yeah.
MIT.
Just,
But I think these were political considerations. I will tell you because I was watching, Councilor Devereaux was
Well, I heard her say, because
When they pressed it to-
said, well, what is
when
your
they said-
vote?
when they
He
told
said,
her to
well,
vote,
I'm
she-
listening to,
she was
right,
You can't interrupt a vote. You got to vote.
exactly.
And she was sort of waffling like a deer in
because
the
of what
headlights.
Carlone had said.
Oh yeah. And then another councilor next to her saying, "Well, you could vote prison. You could vote prison."
I'm glad
So-
she did what she did.
I
you
am
know,
too,
because
but
I just, it's unfortunate though that it had to be played out like that.
Anyway, it was going to pass. I mean, and it's which is interesting because some months ago, I remember walking down Cambridge Street after one of these Envision Cambridge things with Councillor Kelly, and he said to me flat out, he says, "I don't really see how this is going to get the votes to pass."
Really?
And honestly, to their great credit, the members of the Ordinance Committee, but really the MIT officials, and Anthony Galluccio too, honestly, who was legal counsel for MIT in
Right.
this, they did an enormous amount of work and did a great job, I think, in actually, and it wasn't like they were, doling out benefits for individual counselors. They were basically counselors with honestly saying, "This is what I think this needs," and yeah, they were getting benefits for the community, and actually some
Right.
pretty substantial ones. I think this
Right.
community center, which is
Right.
like $25.5 million for design and construction, that's a nice chunk of change.
Yeah.
Right? This job connector program, which I think that, these are always sort of iffy.
Right,
When people
sure.
talk about how do you make it work. It's nice to
Right.
say you're going to do it, but let's
Right.
say, $8.5 million for transit improvements, $8.5 million for Cambridge nonprofits. The Grand Junction, basically facilitating
Right.
an important segment of the Grand Junction corridor for a pedestrian bicycle pathway someday in the future. The 280 affordable units, which is really part of the 1,400 units of housing. Honestly, if you just made 1,400 units of housing out of parking lots, that's a pretty damn good community benefit right there.
Well,
Right?
not if they're super
Well, not if all
expensive.
super expensive,
No.
but the thing is that
Yeah.
still, the housing is needed, and it's nice
Well,
if you can dedicate
I
280
guess,
of them
yeah.
toward affordable. Well,
Well,
honestly,
we could argue about that, but that's
right now we are in a period now of sort of playing catch up in the region, where there just was no housing starts for the longest time. So this is a piece of it. Of course, it can't all happen in Cambridge, right? We cannot house the world. But anyway, quite a list of benefits, and it got settled. So and now they don't have to fight about it next week, and now they can
Right.
just focus in a
on
way.
the election.
I think in a way it might
Yeah.
actually be beneficial in terms of
Yes.
election impacts to sort of
Right.
at least have more than a week in between.
Right.
So it's not like the big topic next week, right?
Mm.
But the other big thing happened was sort of in the political context was Mr. Sanders.
I guess he was in town, but I missed it.
Right. Well,
I wouldn't have paid that much of attention. I mean, I've always liked him when he was who he was, but ever since the
right.
election, no.
So what happened is there's this. And I'll just say it, this very iffy organization called Our Revolution
Well, it's a
Cambridge.
national organization.
Well, the
so
Our
that
Revolution is Sanders' own personal
Yeah,
cottage industry, right?
but each state has a
but
branch.
in Cambridge, there's a group, I really still don't know who's in them.
There was a name given somewhere.
Mike Connolly is a state rep, he's
No, there's
obviously
some
part
Brian
of that.
somebody, I read
There
about
was
it.
one person here who I never heard of before. There were a few people who I know were very much sort of helping Connolly get elected a year ago, and now a couple of, at least 2 or 3 of them are intrinsic parts of this Our Revolution Cambridge. So, in my opinion, inside baseball. This is an insider group, yet they have the Our Revolution kind of moniker on them. So,
Because they espouse the same values.
well, I'm not so sure.
Well,
I mean, other than the
everything I
fact
can
that
see.
we don't take money from developers, but honestly, the amount of money all candidates took from, sort of deep pocket interest this election, it was at pretty much a record low all across the board. There were very few candidates who were even taking much of it at all. So, to me, that should have been a non-issue. But anyway, the real big thing about this to me, and it's not so much the individuals who are getting these endorsements, because that's going to cut both ways.
Yeah.
There are already some people who are pretty resentful, that some national entity comes in and declares amongst, when you've got 26 so-called progressive candidates running for a seat, and then, some national organization says, these are the 6 who should be blessed. When in fact the national organization hasn't a clue about any of them, that's kind of a problem, and it's actually brought out a lot of resentment and there was a very nice letter crafted, co-signed by a lot of people, including former Mayor Alice Wolf and former City Councilor David Sullivan and quite a few others, saying, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. I've already heard that other major elected officials, congressman from Massachusetts and one of our senators already think, well, this shouldn't have been done, but it was done.
Did she say that?
I think so, yeah. So anyway, it's terrible precedent setting. We have nonpartisan elections. We have had nonpartisan municipal government since the 1800s, and to have what is effectively a national party. I mean, they're going to deny it and say the Sanders organization isn't a party. It's a party. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And for them to sort of come in and essentially say this is our party's nominees in the local election basically breaks about 140 years of Cambridge tradition, and that bothered me.
That's just the way it's going to be, I guess.
Yeah. So, and we'll see, this will benefit some. I mean, I imagine there is an uptick, my understanding, in terms of like MIT type students who are, undergraduates who are registering to vote here.
Right.
Will they
and also
simply...
they support the bicycle tracks. So
Well,
it's all this. I mean, nothing against it, but I'm just saying there's a certain group that's very,
I know. But will they basically just say, I mean, I doubt whether too many of them
they had to
actually...
register by last week, right?
Right. So, but there was a lot of registration. So,
right.
But are they really finding out about all the candidates, or are they basically going to get
but that's
a card?
happened every time there's a candidate. I mean, I hate to say it, but when Leland ran, I mean, he got a lot of students.
No.
When Nadeem ran, he got a lot of
that's
students.
fine. That's fine. But the thing is, they're generating it as an individual candidate. It's not like the organization is sort of coming in there and sort of doing it. So I just think it's not the best way to do things.
Hey,
I mean, let's face it. Back in the days of the Cambridge Civic Association, they sent their slate card,
right?
and there were a lot of well-to-do, long-time Cambridge residents who would just do what the card told them too.
Right.
I think that's always been a problem. Honestly, part of the reason why I started doing Cambridge candidate pages was basically to counter that and say, find out about these people, be an educated voter.
Right, this is what they're saying.
Don't just do as you're told, right? And I still feel pretty strongly about it.
Yeah.
Don't just do as you're told.
Well, that's why I've never been a party activist. I mean, I really didn't even get involved until 2008 with Hillary, but that's it.
So anyway, so that was the big thing, and and we still don't know really where it's going from there. I mean, I keep hearing people referring to the campaign getting ugly. I honestly hadn't seen any ugliness yet.
Well, I'm going to the forum tonight, but it'll be, I think, a different...
This is the CEOC?
I think it's the last council forum.
Actually, there is...
there's one on the arts.
There's actually one, there's a new one, again, it's
another one after that?
No, it's the one on the arts, and it's this Thursday, I think.
It is,
right?
it is.
It's this Thursday. I can't do Thursdays because I teach then, Boston.
I don't think I'm going.
So that's happening. Where are they doing that one?
Multicultural
I think it's at the
Arts Center,
Multicultural Arts Center on
makes sense.
2nd Street.
Yeah.
It makes some sense. And and that'll actually give some advantage to some of the candidates who sort of talk that talk. That's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always interesting to me how certain subgroups in the city decide what the issues are or the criteria are that you, the voter, is supposed to use. So whether it's development, well, maybe it is to some people. I think for parents, it's probably how my kids do it.
This is interesting. This isn't necessarily a plug for him, but you know that Mark McGovern's going to be at Improv Boston at 7:30 on Thursday night?
He's done that before, actually, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be, they have some special thing where they invite someone and he's going to have to do improv, I think. So.
By the way, at the Porter Square Neighbors Association forum, which was a week or something ago, Jimmy Tingle was there in the crowd.
I heard, what did they say about Lieutenant Governor? Is he really
He's running for Lieutenant Governor.
That's what Alice Wolf said, and I meant to look that. Are you kidding me?
No, he's running. He's running.
My
See,
gosh.
he's serious, too. So actually,
He is a guest.
We could do that.
Okay,
Jimmy's great.
Yeah.
Jimmy grew up actually right down the street.
Oh,
from
I know his mom.
Yeah, and actually after the forum, I hung out and was chatting with Jimmy. So he's picking my brain on some local things, and honestly.
Right. This is an invite. If you're watching, Jimmy, we want you as a guest.
Jimmy, we want you here, but he'll take over the show.
That's fine. Take it over.
Right.
He needs someone to take it over.
Yeah. Anyway, so Tingle's in it for that. So he's taking
shocking.
Interest. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's what's nice about Jimmy is he's not so obvious one way or the other in terms of local issues.
Right.
He's a guy's thinking on his own. Which is really kind of nice.
All right.
So anyway.
So that's that, and then so there's the forums.
And I'll just sort of say again, I'm not handicapping the race here, but I say that we've gone to enough forums now. I've certainly interacted with enough candidates. I sort of see the campaign shaping up. If somebody asked me privately, like, well, who are the likelies, who are the unlikelies, it's starting to become clearer.
Really?
Honestly. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity for surprises in this one.
I think there's going to be some incumbents that aren't going to get in.
I think there's a real chance that
even though there's 3 openings,
it's a possibility, but it's a long shot. One incumbent out possible, 2
2 would be unlikely, right? Yeah.
So
anyway,
we're down to our last few seconds.
We're here on Halloween
next week.
So we are here.
We are here next week.
All right.
On
Sorry,
Cambridge,
kids.
Cambridge Inside Out.
All right. Bye.